at the end of the 27-year career, I'd pretty much done everything I wanted to do. But at the end of that period of time, I was kind of burnt out. I decided, I'm not going to continue in corporate life. But the problem was I had no idea what I was going to do next. To be honest, I told you I don't do podcasts. So this is one that I've decided to do. That's how good the relationship is with you and your team.
To me, that is much more valuable than revenue figures, business volume, or the size of the company. I value the real satisfaction and the happiness that the customer gets from our work. Mr. Fred Knowles, the founder of Executive Transition Coaching, has been a long-term associate of TA. He has had an illustrious career as Senior VP of HR in Capital One before he started his own coaching company. He is a versatile personality, and he has also authored a wonderful book called New Fred. It's a pleasure to welcome Fred to this show.
Thanks for having me, boss. I don't think you've ever called me Mr. Fred Knowles, so I appreciate that. Yeah, we have had a very long relationship, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it and really how it's grown over the last 10 plus years. So very excited to be here. Just to be honest, I told you I don't do podcasts. So this is one that I've decided to do. That's how good the relationship is with you and your team.
I have enjoyed every conversation that we have had together, and I have learned quite a lot from you, Fred. And I'm sure our audience will also enjoy hearing you.
Yeah, let's see. We'll see if they do. Hopefully that's the case. But yeah, boss, the more I thought about this, I think the major point from my point of view is just, to find a team like Travancore to really go along with you on the journey, not as a service provider, but as a partner. That's really the overall context of this discussion. And I consider you a friend. I consider other people I work with friends. And that to me is what makes the partnership so powerful. So I just wanted to set that context. I want people to always gravitate back towards that, because that's really the main message here.
Yeah. Sure, Fred. Yeah. And it would be great if you could share your story. So from corporate life to a coaching career. So how was the transition? So how did you decide to do that?
So just going back a little bit, I had a 27-year career in human resources, working with some just fantastic companies, ExxonMobil, Capital One, and then I ended my career at Under Armour, working with just unbelievably talented people. And I actually, during that period of time, had numerous people that I'd call mentors that just turbocharged my career, were unbelievable building blocks and helped me really just understand what an HR professional was. So at the end of the 27-year career, I'd pretty much done everything I wanted to do. And it culminated at Under Armour, where I could match kind of my love of sports with my HR knowledge. But at the end of that period of time, I was kind of burnt out. I had some personal issues. My brother had taken his life, and that was very difficult. And we also had 4 kids at home, and I just didn't feel like I was pulling my weight there because I was working so much. So I decided, I'm not going to continue in corporate life. But the problem was I had no idea what I was going to do next. I was just like, I didn't know. I knew I needed some time to kind of download and get my thoughts right before I decided what to do next. But I found myself in 2014, kind of jobless and trying to figure out what was next. So as you know, you mentioned the book, but I ended up hanging out with a bunch of guys at Starbucks, and we ended up crazily writing a sitcom. We then did the actual pilot episode of it. The fact that I'm here talking to you tells you how successful we were in Hollywood, but it was still just a great experience. And then I decided, maybe I could write about the experience. Now, let me say one thing. math majors should not write. I'm a math major and I'm a terrible writer, but I still decided to write the book. And in that also, it helped piece together kind of my career, where I was, and it really helped me realize what I wanted to do next. And that was get into the development of talent. When I look at my career, the things that really got me passionate was watching a leader get better at their craft or watching an individual contributor become a great manager. That's what I loved. So it was natural to use my HR kind of knowledge on this pursuit of development. And therefore, I decided coaching was the way to go.
Yeah, yeah. I think the book also talks about transition of maybe career or one way of living to another. So I am just taking your book. It's a beautiful book. So I read it a few years
Thanks,
back.
thanks for the review, boss. It was the only international review I got. I appreciate that. Might have
Yeah.
been the only international person that read it, but
So the one of the key learnings that you have given in the book, transitions are disorienting and scary. So did it help you to find out the real coach in you?
it did. It totally did. And what I think it allowed me to do, because our first foray into coaching was helping people transition. So I found that I was living this experience of having a 27-year pretty successful career, having kind of my work life so intermingled with my personal life that it really became a large part of who I was. And then all of a sudden I was divorced from that. And it felt like a divorce. And when I say transitions can be scary, it's like, so what's next? It was, I was the head of HR at a company. People look at you differently. Now it's separated. So I think me going through that emotional journey and ultimately the emotional reset really put me in a good place to help other people through that exact same journey. So yes, me going through the sitcom and the book really, I think, gave me the skills to help others as they decide what's next.
Yeah. So did you ever think about having a career as an author? Because you have written a good book, and then you could have pursued that path as well. So did you ever think in that line?
Well, I think you need to write a good book in order to pursue that, right? I wrote a book. I thought it was okay. Other people who read it, but I think that is such a tough life. And, it was kind of a period of time where I just thought I might have something to say that could help people. That's what drove it. I'm not somebody who thinks I have a lot to say that people want to hear in general. So I think as an author, you have to feel like you actually have something important to say. And I'm not so sure I have that. Having said that, I don't know if you read, I do different articles on LinkedIn. I had a series using pop culture figures to teach kind of lessons on leadership. We're now taking a satirical look at performative leadership. And I think that scratches the itch of me being kind of creative in writing, as opposed to the book. The book, even though I had a lot of fun, a good friend of mine, he collaborated. He was brilliant. And we had so much fun writing it. The journey of the book was so much fun. You got to really gear yourself, or at least I do, gear myself up for that. I don't know if I have another book in me. That's all.
Okay, okay. And I also understand your passion is for developing people, because I have felt it directly from you in all our interactions. You asked me the most relevant questions, which have made me think deeper into many things. So whether it is personal character development or professional, so I believe this is the right path. You could definitely do a very good job as an author, even though you politely say that you are not good, not a good writer. But I feel this is the best for you and for those who interact with you as well.
Well, I appreciate that, boss. I always enjoy our conversations and I get a lot out of them too, right? When I listen to kind of how you respond. But yeah, I hope so. The whole point of coaching is if you're in it, for anything other than helping the individual get better, right? And sometimes that's holding a mirror up. Sometimes it's our coaching's a little different where we'll actually give advice. So there's a little consulting involved with our coaching, but we feel comfortable with that because every one of the people on our staff or every one of our coaches are practitioners. They have all been there, done that. They've been senior leaders at very sophisticated companies. These are people who have been there, done that, and can actually see the experience that their coachee is having and find a way to share theirs in a way that's absorbable and helps them. So, yeah, I feel really good about, the coaches we have. And I do feel we make a difference. And ultimately, if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing it.
Right, Fred. Yeah. So I think it is almost 11 years since we connected. And so what made you think that a digital platform could help your business? Because coaching is more like a human activity, right? So you need personal interactions. So
Right.
how did you arrive at a thought like a digital platform could help you?
I think there were a couple of reasons why I thought a platform would work. One was I just felt like coaching, even though it was becoming more this, was going to be a very virtual activity, right? I think coaches that would come into your office and sit with you for an hour and then leave. So I was like, well, if they're not going to be sitting face to face, how can you get information shared back and forth in a way that would make sense? So that was kind of a big thing. The other bit of that is coaching is great, but at the end of coaching sessions, the way when I grew up, it really was dependent on did you write notes down that captured the salient points? And I thought, how cool would it be if you had a system that made it so easy for you to capture the salient points, those gold nuggets that come out of conversations that can be easily lost if you don't capture them. So that was also just another thing that I thought about. And then the third, and this was selfishly as a coach, if you're coaching a lot of people, it's hard to just remember the last time you talked and what you talked about. So if you had a program that actually had, exercise and the like, but at the end of every session, you captured both the salient points and where you were, it was so easy to get back in the system. Say, oh, last time we talked to Boss, this is what we talked about. You can start that next meeting, kind of moving forward as opposed to a lot of regurgitation of what you've talked about already. So there was a bunch of things that I was thinking there. The issue was I had no idea how to do that. I just thought it was a good idea. And, I can tell you how I got to you, but yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to find Travancore.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's right, Fred. Like even though it is a coaching requires a lot of personal interactions, it also requires the person who is being coached to have some private time to think about it and note down his thoughts to bring in some clarity. So that forces the person to think deeply to find out what his strengths are, what his passions are. I'm actually taking your own words. So the key words here are strengths, passions, and values, right? So it requires a lot of reflection from the person's part to really think what are his values, what are his passions. So once you write them down, it gives a clarity. And if the system is able to capture them, it will give a baseline for further discussions between the coach and the person being coached, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that, coaching, and the same goes for mentoring, the coach can be a better coach if they truly understand the person they're coaching. A mentor can be a better mentor if they really understand the mentee. So we spend a lot of time up front with the coachee or the mentee going through a series of exercises that, yeah, are clarification for them for sure, but the knowledge base of the mentor or coach moves tremendously. So when they start giving the advice or holding that mirror up, they're doing it from a base of knowledge of, all right, if I put it across this way, will this individual be able to absorb it? Well, no, based on their strengths and their values, they should be able to. So it really becomes something where it's extremely helpful to the coach or the mentor to understand who they're dealing with before giving them info. Because at the end of the day, you could have great thoughts, but if it's not absorbable by the person you're giving them to, it's not worth it. So we spend a decent amount of time just on getting them to know each other. And that builds the trust so that when you get to the point where you're working a development plan, it all kind of falls into place.
Right, right. And you also have devised a mathematical calculation to arrive at you call it opportunity filter, right? So I
Correct.
still remember that you explained it 10 years ago to me. So that is a wonderful thing. So have you patented that idea?
You can't patent that idea. So I trademarked the term for coaching. So no one can use the term opportunity filter in coaching unless I don't know, I guess they paid me. I don't know what happens there. People may be using it. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, I trademarked that. This is where my math background helped. There is an algorithm that we use, and I don't get into detail on it, but it allows for the transition coaching program, at least, people to look at their current job or future jobs through the lens of, am I leveraging my strengths? Am I unleashing my passions? Am I living my values? Does it fit constraints in my life? And it becomes a really powerful tool for people to think not only about their job, but career through that lens. So yeah, this filter allows you to score, in effect, different opportunities and say, hey, this opportunity could be good. Here's the trade-off if I go to this one. It just makes every leader just a better buyer of kind of their career, meaning they understand the trade-offs they're making. So yeah, that's actually gone well. We have morphed that into another tool for our mentoring and coaching program, but it's the same idea.
So how is executive transition coaching different from regular coaching? What are the specific challenges involved there?
Overall, so we have three different programs that we run. One is the transition coaching program, when somebody is trying to figure out what their next gig is going to be. Or it could be somebody who's had a career and now they're thinking about when they step down from that, how they're going to live their life going forward. That's our first program. We have a development or executive coaching program, which uses a lot of the same exercises. We just focus it there on how do they get better at being a leader. So they're in a leadership job. They have to work on, executive presence or influence and the like. But there we use their strengths, values, and passions to close whatever development gap they have. So in that case, what we believe is if you're using who the person is, meaning their strengths, values, and passions, against a development area, the probability that they'll close that gap is higher. But more importantly, the fact that it'll stick because it's them. You're using who they are to close that gap. We found that to be really an interesting take. And then the last thing we decided was if we can use this for coaching in general, could we use it for mentorship? And mentoring is something that I've always felt at every company I've been at, and they're very sophisticated HR teams I was part of, we never quite really unleashed the power of mentoring. So what I wanted to do was say, could we build a scalable, effective mentoring program that we could hand over as software to companies and allow them to, match mentors to mentees and leverage our program. We've really started, selling that hard, I'd say, over the last year, and it seems to be resonating. I mean, a lot of the HR people that I know had the same feeling about mentoring. They tried it. It was hit and miss in certain areas. It was, if you got the right match, it worked. If you didn't, how you were judging if it was successful or not was how many times they were meeting versus, kind of the substance of the conversation. So what we've built there is what I think is like a master's degree in development that we're handing to clients. So I think what makes us different is we are we're an analytical approach, but it feels human when we coach. And even though we have a very similar system that people go through, it's really personalized and customized based on who they are. So that probably is a differentiator for us. And then the biggest differentiator, sorry, the coaches. The coaches that we have, they don't work for me. They are consultants that decide to leverage the platform. And we meet every 5 weeks to talk about issues going on in coaching and the like. But they were cherry picked, these coaches, because they are some of the best out there at what they do. They were practitioners that were working at very sophisticated companies at very high levels. And you could put them in front of any executive, and they have the gravitas to actually, influence and move that executive. So I think if I were to really peel it back, what differentiates us is our talent, and then it's enabled by the systems you guys built, and just the desire to want to help people. I mean, that's the core of it. We want people to get better.
Okay. So how do you ensure that all the coaches in your system, they all share the same methodology, same values, same thoughts? As you scale and add more and more coaches, that could be one of the challenges that you may face, right? So
yeah, correct. So we don't scale for scale's sake. It really is, do I think this person could be a great coach? Number one, do they share our values, meaning myself and the other coaches' values? And I will tell you, if you look at the list of coaches we have now, I've known them all for a lot of years. I've got people that come and say, hey, I'd like to check out the coaching. Can I join up? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And not being mean, it's just that I don't know you well enough. And, for me, the brand we have is so important that people look at us as high quality, exceptional coaches, right? That are some of the best in the industry with an enablement tool called, the platform that is unmatched. So to me, it's the talent of our coaches that makes the difference. And I don't try to recruit them. I did try to recruit a couple, and I finally got them to say yes. But I just know they're good, and that to me is the key. There was something I learned years ago from the CEO of Capital One, Rich Fairbank, fascinating individual. He started the company. He was the founder. And for a long time, he interviewed everybody that they hired. Think about that. CEO, interviewing everybody. But he was so convinced that it was all about the quality of the person that he would interview a bunch of people and maybe one of them would pop up. But to him, getting that quality was everything. Now you're talking about, I don't know what, a top 5 bank started by, a small credit card group. So to me, that's always stuck in my mind. So when I think about whether it be the coaches or the quality of the vendors I use, people like Travancore, I look for the best. And it's worked out well for us.
okay, yeah. So how do you look at the growth of the platform per se? Like when we started, it was targeting individuals for executive transition. Then later on, initially it was all text-only platform. Then we developed something where we can add audio and video contents.
Yeah.
And then we added features like it can support organizations for mentoring functions, right?
Yeah.
So are you satisfied with the way your platform has evolved over a period of time?
I am. I'm satisfied from 2 different angles. One, I think we listened to the market, and what was resonating with the market, we doubled down on. If things weren't working, we changed it. And then we were always looking for, how can we leverage this intellectual property differently? And that's when we really got into mentoring. So I think that, now that we're in a real scaled business with mentoring, because we're basically licensing software. And it's fascinating to me, a guy in HR that never wanted to deal with anything IT related. I'm actually excited about the prospects of selling software. But yeah, so do I feel good about how we've evolved? Absolutely. But you don't do that just by understanding where there's gaps in the market. You need really talented people to help, work with you. And that's where I said it up front. The relationship with Travancore has been so powerful. I have ideas, right? I have no idea if they're possible. So to have somebody on your side really brainstorm those ideas, not because they just want to build something for me, they want to build the right thing. And again, that's different than other software people I've worked with. They're all about the product. They work back from the need, and they want to make sure they understand what I'm trying to do. And your team does a fabulous job of giving, hey, what about this? And that to me has just grown over time. And that's because I think they know me well, I know them well, but the level of trust is through the roof. So, do
Mm.
I feel good about how we've evolved? Absolutely. And I think going forward, we're going to use the same methodology. Can we
Yeah.
leverage this, what we do in other areas, right? Obviously, can we make money on it is something we consider too. And can we build something to take advantage of that? That's really all we've done. It sounds simple because it is simple. That's all we've done, but it's worked out so far.
Yeah. And your vision and the clarity of what you wanted to really have, that also has helped our team to develop what is required for you, Fred. Yeah.
I would say, yeah, maybe, but I think the vision has changed. You know what I mean? Not the step, not the process, and which I would say is looking for opportunity and seeing if we can leverage our intellectual property. That's not so much a vision, that's a process in my mind. Would I have thought when we first met and we were talking about this little thing called transition coaching that we would now have this much broader suite of programs with 9 individuals leveraging it, and now some very big companies using the software? There was no way for me to understand it. I did know I wanted to figure out how to scale coaching. So, yeah, I guess that's a vision or a hope. But, along the way, what was more important was just understanding how our stuff was resonating in the market, what needed to change, and what opportunities were there. And that's what we'll continue to do. The other thing that really made a difference for me, and I highlight this point because I think it was one of those key principles up front that I've stuck to. I said up front, I want to do this without hiring one employee. I don't want any employees. Now that seems weird, right? I was an HR guy. Why would an HR guy not want an employee? Well, I think that I've seen all the issues that come with employees. And I was like, if I could just leverage different consultants, or people could leverage my stuff through licensing, but I just stick to me being kind of the decision maker, that will really simplify things. Now, I make wrong decisions for sure, but you know what? That's on me. I don't have to worry about somebody three levels down doing something. So it is a different model, I think, but in order to make it work, you need really talented kind of groups around you. And back to Travancore, I feel comfortable doing. I don't feel I have to hire an IT person because you're my IT department, and that's awesome.
Right. Yeah. Now, so we spoke about how the software got evolved over a period of time. So, in terms of specifically with respect to ETC platform. So now the big question is, how do you think AI can impact one, the coaching industry, and then how can we improve our application also using AI? So could you throw some light on that?
Sure. Yeah, I think AI is going to be extremely helpful in the coaching space, right? I don't think it's going to take over high level coaching. And I don't think there are some things that are soft skills that I don't know AI can really teach. And it could be simple things like influencing ability. It could be alignment. How do you align an organization? It could be how you motivate people. I just feel like AI can write down certain things about how to do that. But if you don't have somebody on the other side that has been there, done that, and can help kind of guide you, I think you'll always fall short just using AI there. What I think AI is amazing at, and we're actually using it this way now, is looking at trends and spotting
Right.
inconsistencies.
Yeah.
So for now, I think that coaches are using AI for that. And they may also be asking AI to write development plans and the like, but you don't just have AI do it and hand it to a client, right? There's that upper level thinking that hopefully the coach knows the individual well enough that they can overlay what AI gives them. Think of AI almost like an intern that you can ask to do certain stuff. That's kind of the way I see it now. Like I would ask this intern to do research on this. You can use AI in a powerful way there. Or I'm sure you could figure out, when people go through our program, they write about their story, right? And then later on, they do these assessments on their values, passions, and strengths. I'm sure you could look at that and say, is there any inconsistency between the story and these assessments? AI in the tool allows it to do it like that, which is an amazing efficiency play. So I think AI, we've got to be comfortable with it as an enabler. I don't think it can do certain things. I don't know if it will ever be able to do certain things, but look, AI is pretty amazing. I wouldn't put it past it. But for now, I think for our coaching, I want exceptional people who have been there, done that, leveraging, at least for now, basic AI. And then we will build it over time. And the tool we've put into our coaching platform, which I think it's great. So I think we're going to continue to watch it and see where we can leverage it. And hey, if I'm wrong, and 3 years from now, there's going to be an AI bot come up that's going to look like me, that's going to be able to do everything that I would do, only better, then I'll
Yeah.
say, all right, I was wrong.
I also feel like AI cannot replace a coach, because it has to be finally a very personal thing. Coaching has to be very personal, and AI can probably help in, like, I'm just thinking wild here. If you have a video and audio interface for live sessions, maybe AI can help you to study the emotional reactions from the mentee, and that could help you to identify what goes on in his mind. And so he may not be able to express everything in his mind clearly, but it is always a double-edged sword, so you need to be careful. So that is important,
Yeah.
but the possibilities are there. I was just thinking loud here.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, right? I think some people who are getting coached would find that extremely scary, right? And wouldn't want it. But I mean, those type of tools, yeah, if they're available, I think every coach has got to figure out, do I want to leverage them or not? And what does that do to my client base, right? Is it a net positive or a negative? So I've been using, or I was using, just a simple tool that was translating the conversation I had in my coaching calls. And it gave you a pretty robust take on, what was the back and forth. I tell you what, I don't use it anymore. And it's not because it's not good. It's just that I find that if I have to, I write down notes, and if I spend 10 minutes saying, what are the 2 or 3 salient points I got to capture? I do that better than the note taker now. Not suggesting it can't, but because I know the person so well, right?
Right.
They're coming into this conversation cold. I know, we talked about this 6 sessions ago. I know how to interpret that. That's important, right? And that they might miss something like that. So I'm not saying AI won't get there, but I've tried that and I'm not using it anymore. Some people swear by it, and if their clients like it, great. So here's the key for AI for me. I think you can't, put your head in the sand and stay away from it. You've got to kind of embrace it in terms of what it can do and experiment and see kind of what works for you and what doesn't. My coaches are all in experiential experimental roles that they're going to give it a shot. But you can have a continuum of people, or a spectrum that starts with people who don't want to touch it at all because they're scared of it, and others that are the renegades that are like, let's put it all in. And somewhere in between is the right answer, right? I think you got to gravitate to it as anybody who's in software now. They're going to have to figure out how to leverage it.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember we had a session with all your coaches together, and we tried to answer the questions from your coaches. So it was a very interesting session, and it gave us also an idea like how people from different domains are seeing AI, because since we are from a technology background, we are probably way too much excited about the possibilities, but there are other other things also, like things that can be scary, right? So we don't know. Every technology is like that. Every upcoming technology is always like that. So there will be some good sides. There will be some uh, something scary about that also.
I'm with you, boss. I think that let's say that AI is going to replace coaching at some stage as just a theory, right? The question is, it's not ready to do that now. So when you think about the market, how do you continue to serve people who are maybe on that part of the spectrum that doesn't want AI at all, right? Then you have those other group, maybe younger, who are more into AI. What does that mean for your product mix? What does that mean for the way you market your product? These are all really interesting conversations that you have to think about. Our approach is going to be, we're going to, not be slow, but not be too fast, and experiment and test and see where we can leverage it more. I mean, we're just putting a piece in now that, and again, this isn't even AI, although there might be an AI part of it, is, at the end of every session, a coach or a mentor can write up notes. We're going to put an audio kind of tool in there so they can speak them. I have no idea if people are going to use that or not. I don't use it. My wife loves that. When she's on, I don't do it. I just, either my voice doesn't capture correctly or whatever, but we're going to give it a shot. And I think that if people have a mindset of, let's figure out what AI can do for us now, and then maybe what it might be able to do in the future, that's probably the healthiest way to think about it.
Right, right. Yeah. And Fred, I see you as a visionary who decided to take the help of technology in running your business. I think that was a wonderful thought. What will be your advice to young business owners? Like, what do you think? So, should they get into technology at an earlier stage itself, or should they run their business for a while and then look at ways to see how technology can help them?
Yeah, I mean, I can only talk to probably the people who were either afraid of technology or never leveraged it, which was me, meaning I stayed away from it. I think it's the best advice I'd give is explore and have an open mind, because you don't know what you don't know in that space. And it was only after we started, like I had a general idea of what I wanted. And you remember back in the day, I had handwritten and,
I
Word documents of
remember,
exercises.
right? Right.
It was a bit of a mess, right? And it was only after talking to you and Manesh at the time that we started pulling together how this might work, right? And I had to be open to your suggestions. You had to learn a lot about what I was doing because you weren't doing a lot of coaching programs at that stage. So I think it was, be open minded. But I started with this: get with people that you want to work with, that you trust, that are trying to help you figure it out. And I think that was the thing that really started our relationship. I just felt like you were helping me solve a problem that I didn't know the answer to. And I think that's so powerful. So that's the advice I'd give them. I think there's other people that understand they need to use it. I would say don't over index right away, right? Build your knowledge base, right? You can spend a lot of money on stuff that's not used. And one of my good friends who too, Sam Deshpande, he was a chief information officer. And he said, look, you're going to have a lot of ideas on changes you can make. All I would say is don't. He
Right.
said, you think, you're going to spend a lot of money on stuff that's not going to be leveraged. You can make tweaks to a given program. And then when you're ready for that step change, the new release, think about all that stuff that you've at least tested and know. is going to be usable. He said, that's the best advice I can give you. And I will tell you, I've used that advice, and you guys kind of work that way too. And that's why I think we have a really good platform that's going to get better. And I do think, it's one of those things where we're going to look back 10 years from now to where we are now and say, wow. Same way we look back 10 years and say, from the start of that Word document, right, to where we are now, what's going to happen 10 years from now? Who knows? But you got to have an open mind, because I think it's going to be really exciting, especially in the
Right,
coaching field.
right, right.
Coaching is so fragmented. There's so many different people they're hanging up their sign, and they all have different processes and different ways to go about it. And I have to believe there's going to be more consolidation there. And I think technology will help that, but it's ripe for reinvention, the coaching area. I'll tell you that.
Right. I think you mentioned a brilliant point about curiosity. I think that is one of the most important things at this point of time. I think it was relevant always, but now, especially with the advancement of AIs, you need you need to be curious about what technology can do, and then you need to be ready with trying small things rather than being afraid of it and then resisting it. I have seen many people resist change, especially when it comes to AI. Yes, we are all afraid what is going to happen, but unless we are curious and we are ready to try out small things, we will never know. We will never know how it can be used uh, for a good cause, right? So that's a brilliant point, Fred. I think everybody should take that.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I come up with a good point. You had to get through the whole podcast to get one good thought, but that's all right.
Right, right,
Um,
yeah.
it is, and I would just say have a good partner in curiosity, and that to me is the key. That I don't want people who have an answer, right? The proverbial hammer looking for a nail. I want people to be open minded and say, okay, what problem are we solving? And do we need a hammer, or do we need a saw, or do we need a screwdriver, or do we need nothing? Maybe we do nothing here. But that's the key. So, if that's the way you think, surround yourself with people who have that same curiosity. It's a great, I think you said it better. I didn't say that. You said that. You're giving me credit for it. But yeah, it is curiosity.
That,
I just think the relationship, going back to that, I'm more and more of a believer that it's all about relationships in business, and getting with people that are values based, match your values, right? I think that is the key. So if you start a business, or you're thinking about, getting into technology or the like, just take the time to get people that ultimately you can trust and they trust you, because really good things can happen. And kind of the corollary to that is, if you have people that don't share your values, tough to kind of plow through that and get good results. So to me, I feel very fortunate to have come across Travancore. I feel fortunate about the coaches that have decided to sign up. I feel great about the lawyer who's a friend of mine who does part-time legal work. I just have been really fortunate to find people that share my thoughts and share the way we think business should be done. So that to me is the key for any business leader. It's easier when you don't have employees. I just have to convince myself of that, right? I don't have to convince a whole workforce of it. So yeah, very fortunate. I feel blessed in a lot of ways.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that, Fred. And we also feel a lot of satisfaction, and we feel happy for ourselves when we find that it's true for me as well as my colleagues, all of my colleagues, when we find that something that we have done has helped our customers to run their business, to help their customers. So that is something that gives us a lot of satisfaction. That is what really drives us, much more
Great.
than the volume of business. Or to me, that is much more valuable uh, than all these things, all these outward things like revenue figures and the business volume or the size of the company. So I value the real satisfaction and the happiness that the customer gets from our work, and the meaning that it could be helping an entrepreneur to build his product from an idea to deployment. It could be something like that, or it could be helping a customer run their business to transform their existing business in a way that it can be scaled or it can support more customers. So there are different ways, but we feel happy when we find that we have been able to help our customers in some way, in some meaningful way.
Yeah,
So
it shows, and that to me is the power of what you're building and what you've built, and it's going to be successful because of that. The revenue and everything else follows, right? So you do that right, you please the customer in the right way. Good things happen. So
right.
again, very fortunate to have met you. Really enjoy our friendship, and always look forward to a call with you. And again, this is probably the only podcast I'll ever do. So it'll be for historical purposes put away forever, I'm sure.
Sure, Fred. Thank you so much for spending time with me for this show.
Great. Thanks, boss.
Thank you.